Thank you, President Easter, for your very thoughtful remarks and for identifying for us some key issues and challenges that need to be addressed as we work on post-harvest issues. It is rarely that you're able to get people from all aspects of society, from all dimensions, dealing with a problem. And today, we are very fortunate to have with us on the panel here representatives of industry, not-for-profit organizations, development agencies, and humanitarian agencies. Each one of them deal with the problem of malnutrition, of poverty, of hunger, development, food insecurity slightly differently, but all of them working together provide and can provide a complete solution to the problem. So I'll take a minute to introduce our very distinguished panel. I apologize to the panelists. I won't be able to do justice to your distinguished careers, but I'll just touch upon a couple of points about each of your lives. Joe Taets is Senior Vice President at Archer Daniels Midland Company, the largest food processor in the world, and the company that provided us a very generous gift to set up the ADM Institute for Prevention of Post-Harvest Loss and drew industry spotlight on the issue of post-harvest losses. Joe is also president of ADM's Agriculture Services Business Unit, president of Europe, Middle East, and Africa businesses for the company. He is responsible for ADM's business in Europe, Africa, and India, and he handles ADM's transportation network all across the world. Dr. Judith Rodin, she's the president of the Rockefeller Foundation. As you all know, Rockefeller Foundation is world's leading philanthropic organization and had been dealing with these issues at a time when no one else was willing to pay attention to these problems. She was previously president of University of Pennsylvania and provost of Yale University. She has been a pioneer and innovator in higher education throughout her career, is very well respected, and has served on many influential global forums, including the World Economic Forum, the Council on Foreign Relations, Clinton Global Initiative, and the UN General Assembly. Thank you for being here. Dr. Ertharin Cousin is Executive Director of World Food Program and a fellow University of Illinois alumna. So it's a pleasure to have you here. She took over as the Executive Director of UN's World Food Program in April 2012. Before that, she was US Ambassador to UN agencies for food and agriculture in Rome. She has had a long and a distinguished career in dealing with issues related to hunger, food, and resilience of societies. The World Food Program is the world's largest humanitarian agency, 14,000 employees, and takes care of 80 million beneficiaries across 75 countries in the world. And last but not least, I'm introducing Daniel Gustafson. He's from US and is now the Deputy Director General for Operations for the UN World and Food Organization. In this role, he takes care of organizations, decentralized offices, and headquarters, departments of technical cooperation and cooperative services and other operations-related units. He's an ag economist by training and has had a distinguished career serving at Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture and University of Maryland before joining FAO in 1994. So I'm going to request our panelists to make brief remarks. After that, they'll be available for about half an hour for a dialogue with the participants here. And the dialogue will be moderated by Dr. Kalita, but I'll introduce him later. Joe, could you make a few remarks, please? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the 33,000 colleagues at Archer Daniels Midland, I want to take this moment to welcome you to the ADM Institute for the Prevention of Post-Harvest Loss and its first ever International Congress. The Institute was founded to drive global research collaboration that can help preserve more of what the world grows. As was said before from my background, I am a Senior Vice President of ADM. I'm the president of our Agricultural Services Business Unit. That's the grain, commodity trading, grain elevators, ports, wheat milling, rice milling part of ADM. So it is really a farmer-facing part of Archer Daniels Midland. I'm also acting as the geographical president for Europe, Eastern Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. The subject of post-harvest loss is personal to me. My brother and I are Iowa farmers. My father was an Iowa farmer. My grandfather was an immigrant from Europe and an Iowa farmer. My great-grandfather, great-grandfather, as far as I know going back, they were all farmers. So agriculture is dear to me and my family. I want to take a moment and speak a little bit about ADM. ADM has a proven core agricultural value chain. Global agribusinesses such as ADM serve vital needs. Serving vital needs is a very important goal. As you can see from the slide, we source crops that farmers grow worldwide: corn, oilseeds, wheat, cocoa, to name a few. We transport them and process them in hundreds of processing facilities around the world. We transform agricultural commodities into food ingredients, animal feed, and renewable fuels. And we distribute those products on a global basis to the ever-growing global consumers. As I mentioned before, I work in my business unit is Ag Services at ADM, and I think it's a very important business unit as we pertain to the subject of post-harvest losses. At ADM, we think of two customers: the farmer on one side of our value chain and consumers on the other side. It's my business that's farmer-facing, providing services and efficiencies to the supply chain. On a global basis, ADM has 700 global elevators, over 30,000 rail cars. We ship 80 million metric tons of cargo by ocean-going vessel on an annual basis. We operate 150 ports. We have over 300 trucks and 3,500 barges on a global basis. Within my group alone, we trade 175 million metric tons. All of this in an effort to try to connect farmers on a global basis to consumers around the world. ADM is, and I think we heard this before, one of the world's most diversified agribusinesses. In our businesses, we work to make the best and the most out of every seed, grain, and kernel we touch. We have very strict systems in place and practices in place to prevent spoilage and mishandling. And we feel a great sense of responsibility to make sure that these crops that we originate move efficiently through the agricultural supply chain, serving vital needs. And for me, this slide is really, frankly, the most important. We see, and many have estimated, that between now and 2050, the global population will be somewhere near 1.5 billion people. In fact, that simply means it's going to be required that we produce far more food in the future than we're currently producing. And we likely know that as a result of this growing demand and growing GDP, that there will be a doubling of agricultural demand in the next 40 years. Obviously, part of the solution is increasing productivity. It is certainly one essential step towards meeting this growing global demand. But preserving what we already have is another key. We heard earlier that up to 1/3 of the crops harvested today in the world spoil, and actually don't make it to market. It is through preservation of what we have is a key in feeding the world and making the most of land, water, energy, and other agricultural inputs that we already use today to grow crops. And yet today, and as we learned and we'll hear more of, just 5% of research dollars are spent directly studying post-harvest losses and handling and infrastructure. So in 2011, ADM and others launched the ADM Institute for the Prevention of Post-Harvest Losses. ADM made a grant to the Institute of $10 million. Our aim was then, and remains today, to help the smallholder farmers in the developing world to acquire the training, tools, and technology needed to eliminate post-harvest loss, disease, and pest. To help these farmers store and handle their grain more effectively, to help prevent spoilage, and to improve the overall quality of the crops they harvest. In the nearly 5 years since the Institute was founded, it has conducted valuable research. It has launched innovative programs and forged meaningful global partnerships. And now, through this forum, we've brought the leading agricultural global experts in the field of post-harvest loss together here in Rome to discuss new ideas and strategies. It is my and ADM's sincere hope that the innovations and approaches that emerge here today and in the coming days will ultimately boost the livelihoods of farmers in the developing countries. Ultimately, their gain is the world's gain, because when farmers can preserve more and sell more of what they grow today, they not only feed their families and communities, they help contribute on a global basis and are connected to the global marketplace. They boost the world's supply of grain stocks, and they help to meet the ever-challenging and growing demands of the world. I want to thank you all for the commitment of coming to the Congress and for the work you'll do in the coming days to identify new approaches to reduce post-harvest loss around the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taets. At this stage, I'll invite Dr. Ertharin Cousin to make her comments.